That was a hot take.
No, it's not going to make sense at all.
Oh yeah! Hey, so this is what it looks like as I'm getting started with the stream. This is kind of an odd perspective, right? Yeah, well, I mean, it's hung from my ceiling fan with a special tripod that Tuna gave me. I figured I'd show you some behind the scenes of what it looks like when I get set up. So first of all, we gotta make sure that the AC is on or off depending on the time. I'm gonna have different videos for how I set up for other things, like my Streamlabs setup, and how I choose voices, how I go through and choose the imagery for a particular stream. But now, I figure, well, here's what it looks like behind the scenes. This is more on the physical side of things. First, this is all off. I don't have anything set up yet, so just for the sake of lighting, we'll see how this goes. This is really the one light that does the powerhouse of the work for the stream. Having good light for a stream is actually really important. That's partially because you want to be able to control the light. Now, I use a green screen. Now, that was supposed to be cool and dramatic. I use a green screen. This is a piece of hardware that I actually found scrounging, shall we say. I'm a person who likes to sort of reduce, reuse, recycle. Part of that is because it's super cost efficient, and especially if your building, as mine did when I was living at this spot, if your building has some sort of non-trash receptacle for stuff that people don't want anymore but might still be useful. For instance, somebody threw out a ton of old photography equipment, and I have found it really handy. So, that's what this is. The top of it broke a little while ago. That's what I was using as sort of my run-across arm. And now I have got this old paint pole, I think, that I was going to use as a boom pole when I was doing more live filming. Now, it serves as the arm that holds my green screen. So, I keep my green screen over here. This is kind of my... Well, there's a couple of things here. Over on this side, we've got my craft stack. I like to do crafting projects. I really enjoy making like tabletop terrain and such for tabletop RPGs, which is something that I haven't gotten y'all hooked on yet, but I will. Notice anything different? Yeah, I did just go ahead and put a bunch of keto snacks from up here that don't belong up here back in the box. This is the stack of all my stuff. Up on top, we got some junk I need to get rid of. There always has to be some sort of junk space, and if I don't want it to become my desk, I need to have some other space to do it, and so that's what this is, up top here. This is going to become a drawer that's actually sliding underneath my desk, but I haven't gotten hardware for that yet. Beans stuff, some works in progress. We've got a piece of tabletop terrain that I made recently. It still needs a coat of paint, but I mean, heck, what better video to show it off than a video that's totally unrelated? It's going to be a crane, essentially, and it's made out of yogurt containers, some old granny grating for knitting, a couple of lids from tea containers, and quite a bit of little plastic bits from a Nerf crossbow. It's gonna look really cool painted up, I promise. Down here we have green screen. Over here we have tabletop RPG stuff. Underneath I got camera gear, and really that just means a camera that I have and some backdrops that I like. Other than that, we've got some old journals, financial stuff, and then some audio equipment down at the very bottom. When I say equipment, I don't have a ton of stuff, but I tend to really use whatever I've got, so really what's down there is just storage for the stuff I'm already using elsewhere. But right now, this is what I need. I used to just use a green screen. As a matter of fact, you know, I think from some of my older videos that this is the same green screen I use, and I used to tack it to the ceiling in our old apartment. I used to do a standing sort of setup in front of an entertainment center where I would just put my laptop up right in front of the TV, and I would have the TV running a sort of like yellow-orange image, and that was my face lighting. It made a nice little ring light, and frankly, I kind of liked it. I kind of wish I could get that back. But I've added this to the setup. Now that I've got the setup to support it, it's nice to have some kind of sound baffling. I don't know if it helps so much, but one thing you can do with light is to kind of mess around with it. As you can see, I've got this light bouncing off of that wall to make it a bit softer. With sound, it's a little tougher to play with, it feels like. I can do certain things to try and adjust the sound levels, but at the end of the day, AC is always going to make noise. The street, a little ways away from our place, is always going to make noise. And that is something that I just kind of have to live with and do whatever I can to try and alleviate. So, I put up an old blanket and some sound baffling, and then I throw up my green screen here. Any extra lights, because the lighting setup in my room is actually not particularly good, any extra lights that might be shining through this really thin material showing up on the green screen as a slightly different green type. And sometimes that slightly different green won't register as the special green I have keyed in to disappear. What all this means is that green screens are picky. And so you have to be able to control the light as much as you can. You want to be able to control how the light is hitting it. For instance, the fan that this is currently mounted to, that my camera is currently mounted to, that's actually slightly behind my green screen. Not ideal, but it is what I'm working with right now. So let's get you down from there. And let's check this out. What is this? Well, it's chair mount cam. That's right. Special dolly work inbound. I have to get set up for a stream here. As such, I'm going to turn on my PC and I wait. Fortunately, not very long. It used to be quite a long time I would have to wait for this sort of thing when the old laptop was my main workhorse, but now, of course, I've got a much better system. I call this computer Elrond. I tend to name most of my electronics after the Lord of the Rings characters because of the fact that there are a ton of them. They're fairly easy for me to remember, and I spent a lot of time going over that universe when I was younger. And now I'm going to get set up. As you might be able to see, I turned off my can light because it's actually too bright. You want stuff to be lit from the same perspective as the camera, and with that on, it just dimmed everything out. As per usual, I have to go ahead and mess with voice mod. Now, next up, I have to go ahead and open up all my programs and get this all set up, ready to stream. It's actually taken me a really long time to devise exactly how I'm going to do that. So first of all, I'm going to go into my asset PDFs. Going to open up Percy Jackson and get that set up over in its place right here. Now I've got different setups for different types of streams, but as reading is my typical stream, I'm going to go ahead and give you the setup for a typical reading stream. Now I go into my tools, and I've got a bank of streaming tools here. Some of them I don't need anymore, but I'm opening up VoiceMod, Streamlabs OBS, a program called Snaz, and that is actually all that I need for right now. As we can see, Snaz is opened up right here. I'm going to go ahead and use this to set up the time at which I'm going to be streaming. And as you might be able to see, there's what it looks like right now. Hello everyone. I think this is kind of an interesting perspective. I hope you do as well. So now I've got my countdown set up, and if we go over to the library, we can see, it looks so ridiculous with me like hunched over to the side. We can see that if I turn the countdown on, there we go. So I've got 2 hours, 23 minutes, and 20 seconds, which means you're not actually getting the full experience because there's an important ingredient I'm leaving out right now, which is panic. Typically, I am not doing this until the very last moment. Now, if you hold down your Windows key and use your arrow keys while you've got a program highlighted, you can actually move it over so it occupies exactly half or exactly 1/4 of the screen. Certain programs don't really play nice with this. For instance, VoiceMod. So VoiceMod, it cheats over a little bit more than half, but that's okay for what we need it to do. What fills up all this space? Right now I'm opening up a Microsoft Edge window as well. That is going to be my Twitch dashboard here. Over here is where I keep an eye on chat. So I look at chat here, I can see all of the reminders to hydrate and such. I can edit my stream info, and I can see my sort of stream health over here. This is where I see what I'm broadcasting, and this is where I see what Twitch is receiving. Down here is where I keep Discord open. So I can check on the various channels. I can jump in here with Percy Jackson. Death Metal Dahlia has just posted some absolutely gorgeous images from the Olympus collection of an artist named Anna Martinez. And so that is where I keep an eye on Discord. And over here, we have got sort of what's going on. I like to divide it up pretty evenly into what I'm doing and how I'm streaming it. So there's the program I use to stream. This is the window where I can interact with chat, and this is where I interact with Discord. Over here, the voice mod is part of how I stream, so that's the window it goes onto. When I'm actually using it, I don't really need to see most of this window. I just need this bottom bar here where I know if Hear Myself is on and if the voice changer is on. Let me pop up my PDF again. I just cheat this window up very slightly so I can just see the bottom bar. And on this, just in case I do need to click over to it to reselect a voice or to change something, I cheat this one down a little bit. That way I can quickly switch between the two of them without going into my bar below to find every single thing that I'm using. Now, over on this side of the space, I don't really need it here, but I keep my streaming spreadsheet open. This is a great place to drop notes at a moment's notice if I need to. I'll put the Percy Jackson page open, and this is officially what it looks like from my perspective when I'm streaming. We can see I've got my webcam up there, I've got my book here that I'm reading, I've got my notes here, and then I've got my streaming set up over on the side. Some of the things below all of this is pretty important as well. For instance, I've got my medication here. That's very important. I have got my stream deck just underneath that. This moves when I'm streaming. I have got my keyboard, which is just a really basic one. And then I've got my mouse, which as you can see is not nearly as basic. I really liked the lights more than I thought I was going to. But what this is a gaming mouse. I've talked about it a little bit before, but the important thing to know about it is that it's got more buttons than your average mouse. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, in addition to the regular 1, 2, and 3. Now, why is this important? Well, I can program those to do different things. For instance, key combinations from my board here. It used to be I used to have to do some sort of complicated maneuvers for applying different voices and turning them on and off at different times. No more. Now, if I've got a voice selected, I just hold down this thumb button and the voice will apply. And when I release it, that sound is going to stop. The great thing about this is that I can do that while also scrolling through the PDF, because oftentimes if somebody's got a long dialogue they're putting through, I need to know what they continue to say, and I can't pause the voice and then jump back into it. It would really break things up quite a bit. I think that's the basics of my setup. Of course, I've got my mic here. I use a Blue Yeti. Good times with it, I've had bad times with it. Overall, I would say it's been a pretty solid experience thus far, and this runs directly out into this pair of headphones here. If I had a full audio setup, and someday I would like one, then I could do some of this without some of these workarounds. But the important thing about this is that I can hear myself without a delay. Now, for most systems, hearing with a delay is just part of the electronics of it all. It has to run the sound into the computer, it has to process it, and then it has to spit it back out into your earphones. I might be slightly better at it than most. For instance, that speech jammer thing, which works on the exact same principle. It just listens to what you're saying and then spits it back at you, but on a delay. That actually doesn't affect me very much. Still, you want to be able to hear what you're doing in real time, not on a delay. This has been a pretty solid system for me before I can afford to get a full sound setup. Now, is there anything else? Well, I can't think of anything so far. As you can see, there are a few improvements that would be cool to make. For instance, it would be nice to have a different green screen and better lighting, and a more stable sound system. One where, ideally, I could take in multiple mic inputs for different things like this. It would be nice if I could kind of set up a boom mic elsewhere in the room, for instance, if I wanted to film from a different perspective, because I'd like to start filming more from here at the desk, and it didn't strike me until last night. What if I just turned around 180 and used the desk as my backdrop? A lot of the other points in the room either tell too much about the neighborhood that I live in, or I don't want to have to keep the whole room tidy just for something like this. So, how do I get there? Well, that is the sort of thing that you can expect me to use Patreon support for. Y'all are supporting me in a way that nothing else can really do the same job, and it will improve the sound of the streams, it will improve the look of the streams, and honestly, as long as this continues to work, it will probably first improve the frequency of the streams. I want to stream more. I'll have a list of things already that I want to keep streaming, and already y'all have been able to make that possible. I've gone from 1 stream a week that I did for almost 2 years, all the way up to I'm now at 3 consistent streams every week. I'm doing 3 different shows in different books and different genres of storytelling, and now I have got a little bit of extra time for behind-the-scenes content like this. I hope you will join me on Patreon. You can find the link down below. But if you're already here, I thank you very, very much for your special support, and I thank you for riding the sidecar with me and making it an important part of your life. Thanks so much, and I'll see y'all later. Let's try that one more time. I use a green screen.